Barbarian is the name of the movie. Thousands of a long time prior, a gather of magicians from the dim realm of Acheron made a veil utilizing the skulls of dead lords. At that point they yielded their girls to the dim divine beings and arranged to provide the veil dim control. A short time later they went out to oppress the civilized world, slaughtering any individual that challenged to induce on their way. As it were, the brute tribes were cleared out to rise up against them, and amid an awfully savage and grisly fight, the pioneer of the Sumerians, Corin, crushed the alchemists and crushed the veil. At that point each tribe kept a cover shard so no one might utilize it, but a prediction said somebody would attempt to put all the pieces together once more. In the long run Acheron fell as well. A long time later, the Sumerians are at war with a match clan. Within the center of the fight, Corin's pregnant spouse is lethally harmed, but when Corin finds her, she inquires him to open her stomach so she can grant birth to the child, who she names Conan. Sometime recently she kicks the bucket. Since he was born on a front line, Conan's birth is considered to be an effective sign. A long time passes, and Conan gets to be an awfully furious young person, but he too can be very scattered. Within the morning that all the tribe's high schoolers take the test to see in case they can end up warriors, Conan arrives late, but Corin lets him connect besides. All the boys run into the timberland to urge an egg and thrust each other to create the competition lose, breaking other eggs and not caring if anyone falls and gets harmed. Abruptly, a bunch of outsiders shows up among the trees and starts going after the boys. Most of the teenagers run back to their tribe, but Conan needs to demonstrate himself and remains. And Foe takes the chance to toss his bolus at Conan and makes him drop. At that point all the savage warriors encompass him. Another fellow grabs Conan by the hair and tries to require him absent, but Conan promptly guards himself and with a number of hits, he thumps the man down. He doesn't stop there. He at that point takes a weapon from the foe and proceeds to battle without benevolence, savagely slaughtering each guy until he's alone within the woodland with a bunch of bodies. Minutes afterward, Conan returns to the tribe carrying the heads of his foes in his hands and the egg from the trial in his mouth. Since Conan's a warrior presently, Corin takes him to his foundry and educates him how to form a sword. The primary attempt breaks. At that point Corin reveals the fashioning privileged insights of the family so Conan can make a really great sword and begin preparing. Conan is exceptionally inconsistent and lets his outrage get within the way of his learning, making it simple for his father to vanquish him with traps. Corin too tells Conan he's not ready to have such a sword. However, at some point afterward, Conan is alone within the woodland and sees a bunch of armored warriors with the image of a two-headed serpent ride by. These men make it to the tribe and begin a brutal fight against the brutes, with both sides murdering warriors all over the put. The outsiders moreover have exceptionally skilled bowmen that slaughter en masse and warriors that crush the buildings utilizing rocks on fire. Conan comes from the timberland to connect the battle and Corin is occupied by attempting to reach him, giving the adversary the chance to thump him down. Conan sneaks around and finds his father has been taken to the foundry to meet the foe pioneer ZYM, who requests Corin's masked piece as he uncovers he has all the other shards as of now. When Corin denies, he is limited and hurt to attempt to form him conversation. Incensed, Conan jumps in and assaults a warrior named Lucius, managing to cut off the man's nose. Corin uses the chance to attack as well, but there are as well numerous warriors, and before long father and child are overpowered. A while later, Corin is chained to a cauldron of liquid metal hanging over him, and ZYM keeps jabbing it to burn Corin, whereas Conan is constrained to observe. ZYM too brings his girl Marike, who employments her enchantment powers to discover the cover shard covered up in a box beneath a floorboard. Presently he has what he needs. ZYM sets fire to the foundry and hits Corin's legs sometime recently, jabbing at the cauldron once more, causing Conan to run and snatch the chains to halt the cauldron from slaughtering his father. Marike takes Corin's sword and ZYM includes the last shard to the cover to at last total it, promising his girl that he'll utilize it to bring his mother back. Within the foundry, Corin tells Conan to take off him since he can't spare him, but since Conan denies, Corin ends things for himself so Conan can elude. With his hands harmed from the chains, Conan leaves the building and grieves for his affiliated tribe sometime recently, taking a sword from the heap of bodies as he swears vindicate. A long time afterward, Conan is presently a soldier of fortune. He works with a privateer named Artis, and together they strike a slave camp. They begin by rolling a bunch of rocks down the mountain to intensely harm the camp. At that point they bounce into battle hand-to-hand and murder each slave owner they can discover. Conan could be an exceptionally gifted warrior, and no one can arrive a single hit on him. A while later they take the survivors to the city of Masantia for a celebration full of music, ladies, and alcohol. Suddenly, a bunch of men with the wind image arrives at the party, and Conan takes note they're driven by Captain Lucius. They appear to be searching for something, and Conan realizes they're after a pickpocket named Elishan. Conan grabs Elishan and attacks a watch sometime recently, giving himself in on reason since he needs to memorize more around his adversary. Before long, Conan and Elishan are taken to a grimy jail where hoodlums are put to work. Conan is cleared out in chains, and when a protect makes fun of him, he bounced in and begins another fight, hurting the guards until they uncover where Lucius is stowing away. At that point Conan employments the guards' head to pick up Gita to the captain's quarters, where he starts battling indeed more watches, slaughtering them to the enchant of the detainees that are observing. Following, Conan gets Lucius and starts harming him until he acknowledges to conversation. Clearly ZYM has ended up a capable shadow master, and these days he's seeking out for the pure-blood relative of the alchemists of Acheron, since he needs their blood to open the mask's genuine control. Once Lucius tells him where to discover ZYM, Conan makes him swallow his key sometime recently, taking him exterior as he reports to the detainees they're free presently. They fare ought to get the key from Lucius' stomach. Before long a gigantic swarm of angry men plummets on Lucius to slaughter him. Conan makes his way out and Elishan tells him where to discover him in case he ever needs him to return the favor. When Conan reunites with Artis, he inquires him to let him work on his exact retribution alone. In the meantime, at a monastery, the senior cleric Foster tells Tamara he's had a vision of a warrior that will come to require her to her origin. All of a sudden an armed force of Wind Religion troopers arrives, driven by ZYM and a more seasoned Marike, who assault the cloister in look of the pureblood. As a colossal vehicle crushes the town's dividers, Freeze takes over the town and individuals attempt to elude, but ZYM's men are unfeeling and murder anybody on their way. Tamara needs to assist protect the town and throws some hits of her claim, but Foster finds her and inquires her to take off in a carriage that employments the wind symbol as a cover. Within the woodland adjacent, Conan sees the carriage and accepts it to be the adversary's sense of the wind. He rides after them, and once he's near sufficient, he bounced on the roof and breaks it to discover Tamara. She tries to wound him with her cut, whereas the Toxophilites start shooting bolts at him, but Conan evades them all, sometime recently bouncing back onto the horse to have a sword fight with a wind warrior named Remo that has caught up to them. There are two warriors assaulting the carriage, so Tamara takes off her situate, and after perilously hanging on the edge for many seconds, she kicks off the driver and takes over the carriage. When a warrior tries to come closer, she detaches the carriage, causing it to come off and crash on the street to delay the officers. Conan comes closer as well and cuts a horse's reins to capture a trooper and drag him through the ground until he's dead. Tamara hops on a horse to ride away speedier, and Remo quickly goes after her, attacking her horse to form her drop. At that minute Conan hops off his possessed horse and gets some change from an adjacent structure, utilizing them to thump out the officer that had been taking after him. More officers before long arrive, and Conan battles them all at the same time, slaughtering them one by one without leniency. At that point Conan uncovers his character to Remo, who gets frightened and rides absent. Back in town, Marike is checking all the ladies from the sanctuary to discover the pureblood. Losing tolerance, Marike murders one of the ladies and harms the others, continuously tasting their blood to find none of them are who they're seeking out for. Then the watches bring Foster, who says no pureblood is cleared out, be that as it may ZYM doesn't accept him. At that point ZYM offers the story of how he and Marike had to observe his spouse be lashed and set ablaze by Foster's arrange. Be that as it may, Foster protects this occurrence, clarifying that ZYM's spouse had been an insane fan that needed control to prevail the arrive. Hearing this makes ZYM snap, and he continues to bash Foster's head on the sanctuary floor. At that minute a guard informs ZYM that Remo is still going after a woman, and ZYM reaches the conclusion she must be the pureblood. Back within the woodland, Conan chases after Remo until he's near sufficient to slaughter him and make him drop off the horse, thumping him out. A while later, Conan surmises that Tamara is the one ZYM is searching for, and Tamara considers Conan is the fellow from Fasser's vision, so she requests to be taken to her country. When night falls, Conan keeps Tamara tied up fair in case she needs to elude, since he needs to utilize her to pull in ZYM. When Tamara inquires as well numerous questions, Conan shuts her up by putting a few cloth in her mouth. The following morning, Remo wakes up and tells Conan that Tamara is the final pureblood from Acheron. He offers Conan an enormous remunerate for her, but instead Conan ties Remo to his horse and makes him direct him to ZYM. After parcels of traveling, they at long last reach ZYM's camp, where they discover a bunch of surrendered catapults. Conan ties Remo to one of them and covers his mouth with the same cloth sometime recently catapulting him, causing Remo to kick the bucket when he crashes right into ZYM's monster vehicle. Marit checks on the body and finds the piece of cloth with a message from Conan inquiring ZYM to meet. Utilizing her enchantment on the cloth, Marike confirms Tamara is with him. Minutes afterward, ZYM and Conan meet at a deserted station. Tamara is tied to a post, but it's as it were for show since she has her cut in her hands. ZYM tries to purchase Tamara, but Conan requests a battle. All of a sudden, Marike moreover appears up and employments her enchantment to form troopers out of sand that quickly start assaulting Conan. It's exceptionally difficult for him to battle them since they keep on evading his blows by combining with the sand on the ground, and before long Conan is thumped down. At that point, the Sandmen start throwing their weapons at Conan, who immediately starts running absent. One of the Sandmen moreover approaches Tamara, who rapidly liberates herself with a cut and hits the Sandman sometime recently running as well. Conan climbs the building as tall as conceivable, and when the Sandmen come after him, Conan acts quick and pushes them to the ground, where they're crushed back into grains of sand. There's a Sandman going after Tamara that makes her drop through different wooden stages, but sometime recently he can reach her. Conan crushes him fair in time. There's one final Sandman left, but presently Conan oversees to recoup his sword and destroys it in seconds. A while later, ZYM comes to battle Conan specifically in a sword duel. To begin with, they appear to be about equally matched, but after Conan reveals his character, Marike employments the chance to harm Conan with a poison-laced boomerang blade. Presently that Conan is feeling frail, it's simple for ZYM to overpower him and toss him on the ground over and over. When there's an opening, Tamara drags Conan absent and tosses a burn at a few spilled oil to cause a blast that stops ZYM from taking after them. At that point, Tamara and Conan stand on the external divider and hold up for Artus to appear up on his transport, so the twosome hops into the water to be protected. Afterward, within the evening, everybody is resting on the transport when abruptly the Wind faction assaults. Conan, Artus, and the group promptly spring into activity and battle the officers, murdering each man that dares to hunt for Tamara. Conan in specific lets his inward seeth take over, reminding his adversaries of what they did to his tribe some time recently, slaughtering them. As more and more soldiers are tossed over the edge, Tamara tries her best to defend herself, murdering a couple of men as well. After parts of exertion, sweat, and blood, the crew wins the battle and now can keep cruising in peace. In the long run, the transport makes it to ZYM's kingdom, and Conan declares he's taking off alone. Be that as it may, after he's gone, Artus reveals Conan overlooked the outline, so Tamara takes it to him. Conan and Tamara are having a difficult time saying farewell, and they end up kissing. At that point, they go to the closest cave so they can spend a couple of hours getting frisky with each other. Once Conan has fallen sleeping, Tamara begins making her way back to the dispatch, but in the middle of the timberland she's trapped by Marike and her men, who promptly capture her. By the time Conan comes seeking out for her, they're as of now gone. Minutes afterward, Marike takes Tamara to see ZYM and tastes her blood to affirm Tamara could be a pure-blood descendant of the necromancers of Acheron. In the interim, Conan goes to the city of Cheech to hunt for Elishan. He enters a tavern, and when the proprietor doesn't need to reply his questions, Conan attacks him. Gratefully, Elishan shows up at that point and stops Conan. Sometime recently things heighten. He's moreover prepared to pay Conan back for liberating him from prison. At some point afterward, they make it to ZYM's fortress, and Conan has brought Elishan to discover a way to sneak in. They find that underneath the fortification is an ancient mine, so Elishan manages to open the doors to the underground burrows with his uncommon ace key. The duo comes down some stairs and finds the complete range is flooded and full of skeletons, so they got to use caution. Abruptly, a gigantic wind gets Elishan and drags him underwater, so Conan has to swim rapidly to slaughter the wind with his sword and free his companion. In the meantime, Mary-Kay dresses Tamara in her mother's dress. At that point, Tamara is tied down to an extraordinary contraption for the up-and-coming custom. In the long run, Conan and Elishan come out in a pool interior, a room full of caged slaves, and to protect that monstrosities out as soon as he sees them. The fellow rapidly discharges a bunch of slaves near the pool, and this causes various appendages to abruptly come out of the water. Elishan runs to hide in a cage while soldiers show up to bargain with the gatecrashers, but numerous of them are caught and slaughtered by the tentacles too. Conan fights the watches, whereas avoiding the limbs, whereas a baffled watch pulls at the chains to create Elishan's cage move so it can act as snare. He tries to open the cage with the key, but he incidentally drops it and he doesn't know how to choose locks the normal way. Conan goes to fight the Protect to pick up control of the chains, and as they exchange a bunch of hits, Conan wraps the chain around the guard's body, sometime recently hitting him with a mace to send him into the water. The beast quickly assaults the Protect and eats his legs, so when Conan pulls him once more with the chains, the Protect makes for a dying decoration. Now Conan can jump on Elishan's cage and at last free him. Sometime recently they run absent. After crossing the different corridors, the team makes it to the balcony and finds Tamara is being taken to Cranium Cave. Conan tells Elishan that he reimbursed his obligation and continues alone. Night has fallen by the time Conan makes it to Skull Cave. Whereas Conan fights a few guards to induce closer to the ritual, ZYM is harming Tamara to induce her blood on the veil. Presently, that horns on the side are moving mystically, and after ZYM puts it on, he tries to resuscitate his dead spouse. At that minute, Conan appears up and attacks ZYM. Sometime recently he can wrap up the spell. All of a sudden the total cave begins to shake and disintegrate down. The rest of the religion individuals run away, but the contraption with Tamara falls into the abyss. Luckily, the sticks on the sides make it get stuck on the dividers, and Conan bounced after her to spare her. Be that as it may, ZYM comes as well and begins another sword duel with Conan, whereas standing on the contraption. The men trade some blows, and when the complete cave shakes once more, the contraption slips and is cleared out, hanging on its side. So Conan has got to get on Tamara's chains not to drop. ZYM does the same thing and starts turning the contraption, but this gives Conan the chance to reach Tamara and at last free her. Whereas Tamara runs absent, Conan and ZYM keep on battling until they drop. The contraption rapidly takes after them and crashes on their spot, but both men bounce out of the way fair in time. In the meantime, Mary-Kay takes after the scent of Tamara's blood to discover her, and the ladies begin a battle as well. Conan listens to Tamara calling his title and goes after her, whereas ZYM takes after him. At that minute, Tamara oversees to punch Mary-Kay on the confront and toss her against the divider, sometime recently escaping. Be that as it may, Mary-Kay can still scent her blood and effortlessly finds her once more. At that point she uses a chain and a shake to undertake to murder her. Fortunately, Conan appears up and stops her by cutting her hand off. At that point, Tamara pushes Mary-Kay off to her passing. A short time later, Conan and Tamara attempt to elude, but a column disintegrates and causes them to part. Conan keeps moving and bumps into ZYM, who concedes he's utilizing Corin's edge. Hearing this, angry Conan employs his uncovered hands to retrieve the sword that has a place to him, and since ZYM has two other swords besides, they restart their battle by dual wielding. A furious duel results, but this time, Conan effortlessly overwhelms ZYM, to the point where he drops a sword and chooses to keep battling as it were with his father's edge. Before long, Conan is incapacitating ZYM and pushing him against the divider, where he's blocked by falling Flotsam and Jetsam. At that point, Conan reunites with Tamara and they run out of the cave, whereas its uncovered ZYM is still lively. When he finds the body of his girl, he is crushed and hollers that he'll have Vindicate. Conan and Tamara are running through a bridge, but abruptly a wooden board breaks and Tamara falls through the gap. Fortunately, Conan snatches her chains fair in time and spares her. In any case, ZYM appears up and wraps up the spell to summon his dead spouse. The the soul of the ancient witch starts having Tamara's body, and she asks Conan to let her go. When Conan denies, ZYM makes fun of him for being stuck within the same circumstance once more, but Conan employments his sword to cut the bridge and make ZYM drop to his passing. This immediately interrupts the spell and Tamara goes back to ordinary. A short time later, Conan wraps up pulling Tamara up and they elude from the cave securely. With the Wind faction annihilated, Conan returns Tamara to her origin, telling her that they'll meet once more sometime in the not-so-distant future, sometime recently clearing out. At some point afterward, Conan returns to his ancient town to appear his father's grave that he's at last commendable of the sword. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video.